Okay, hey everybody, Teching 101 here. Before we get into this video, I have a couple of things to go over, so just bear with me. Alright, so the first thing, next month in July 20th to 23rd, TechoCon is going to be going on in Pittsburgh. It's the convention I go to every year. I'm going to be there again. There's a special referral link down below to get your badge and everything if you would like to come. I am going to be doing another panel. That'll be on Saturday night, I believe, is the my panel, so it'll be July 22nd. But yeah, more information on that as we get closer to the convention, but if you would like to go, follow the link below to get your badge and get set up there. Second thing to bring up is that before you go watch this video, maybe, because we're going to be talking about Eam today and a lot of the stuff that we learned from the last chapter, I would recommend to go watch Artur's video on his channel that he made yesterday, because Artur actually knows Japanese, and one of the big things about reading the chapter was I was really curious on exactly how Eam's speech pattern really worked in Japanese, like the original. So he goes into a deep dive on that to really explain a couple of things. I'll bring up some stuff, but just go watch his video because it's just a better way of like explaining all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Actually, while we're at it, there's another YouTube channel that I just found out the other day that's One Piece related called Mugiwara no Goofy, and it's hilarious. This guy is incredible, all right? You should go and check out his channel immediately. I think he's only got a few videos out, but basically what he does like these stand-up comedy routines where he goes through an entire arc of One Piece, but through the perspective of a villain, like not the Straw Hats. Like he went through the whole Katakuri versus Luffy fight, but from Katakuri's perspective, and it's just, I don't think I've laughed as much at like One Piece-based comedy in forever. So go check out his channel, Mugiwara no Goofy, as well as Artur's video. I'll put links to all this stuff below. And if you're going to be in the Pittsburgh area next month, or if you live in the Pittsburgh area and you want to come to Techo and come to my panel and see me walking around and everything like that, go check out that link below to get all set up. All right. With housekeeping out of the way, now we can get into the topic of the video. I, Teching 101, have compiled a comprehensive list of everything we know about Eam. Sorry. Come to the convention. I might just give this away. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this. Anyway, comprehensive list of everything we know about Eam-sama. Oh, yes. So we're going to get into that today here. All right. The number one thing we know about Eam, and you might think this is kind of a joke, but no, I put this on here seriously because this is important, okay? Eam exists. All right? Now, I want to back up for a moment because I know some of you are probably like, well, actually, Teching, Eam refers to themselves as Mu, which means nothingness, or void, which means they don't exist. Whoa! No. But, like, physically speaking, as in Eam is made up of some type of matter that interacts with the rest of the world around them, Eam exists, okay? Eam is not some intangible being. We didn't really see anything about Eam up until now. We saw Eam picking up pictures or wanted posters and like looking at the Straw Hat and images and stuff and kind of creepily looking at Vivi's image, but we weren't really sure exactly what was up with this being Eam, okay? But Eam is physical, which means Eam is also punchable. All right, this is also really important. Eam, is able to walk around and sit upon the empty throne. They make sound effects. They make the thump when Eam's royal butt touches the empty throne. Does Eam poop? You know what? Probably the question Luffy's going to ask. I don't know if we're ever going to have a moment in the story where Luffy's going to directly encounter Eam, and they're going to have a little bit of a back and forth, but you know for a fact the very first thing that Luffy is going to ask upon looking at this weird silhouetted being with the giant crown and the weird Rinnegan eyes, very first thing Luffy's going to ask is, do you poop? And I'm curious on how Eam is going to respond to that, given the way that Eam was talking to Cobra. So, moving on from the poop question, Eam has a physical form. Eam was able to, okay, I don't know if this means, whether or not, like, Eam is able to dodge out of the way of attacks, but we saw Eam block an attack, or rather eat an attack from Sabo in the last chapter. So it begs the question, Sabo fired the attack smothered mate directly at Eam like a fire jet heading right for them. Eam did not dodge that attack. The attack did not pass right through them, which is something that would be indicative of some kind of intangible ghost or godly being. No, Eam is physical, and so actually chomped down and devoured the attack. So that's just something there. Is that the only way that Eam could have dealt with that? If the attack would have hit Eam dead on without Eam like chomping down on the fire, would that have harmed Eam in any way? Could Eam have just like, whoa, and like dodged out of the way. Eam seems to have some sort of transformation ability, and this might carry on to the Gorosei as well. Like, the Gorosei are fragments of Eam, possibly. So I'm not really sure. I feel like since Sabo was able to hit a Fire Fist point blank on the Gorosei without them really noticing that Sabo was there, so he took them as much as by surprise as Sabo possibly could, and they didn't really seem damaged at that at all. So I feel like even if the smothered mate would have struck Eam directly in the face, I feel like it really wouldn't have done anything. But the fact that Eam, like, ate the fire. Like, so Eam has a mouth, which was something else we weren't really sure about up until now, but Eam has a mouth, and it apparently can transform into, like, a giant, like, dragon maw or shark teeth or whatever. Just chomp, like, right down on the fire. I'm going to go into that a little bit more, by the way, that specific attack and how Eam countered it, because there's something there that might be interesting in of itself, but we're just kind of going through basic stuff here. Eam is the unquestioned ruler of the world, essentially. Eam sits upon the empty throne. Eam bosses around the Gorosei. The Gorosei don't just seem like a boss and like middle management type of relationship. The Gorosei are explicitly just obedient to Eam's every wish and desire, which makes me once again think of whether or not the Gorosei are their own human beings that were born and then they were just raised to listen to Eam, or is Eam manipulating them with some kind of advanced form of Conqueror's Haki, or are they fragments of Eam themselves, so therefore they have to obey Eam because they are part of Eam. Could be getting very metaphysical here and everything like that. But yeah, that's the basic stuff about Eam. Physical form, blocks attacks by eating them, makes sounds, can move, might very well poop, and has a punchable face. If anything else, solid matter. So, Luffy could just walk in, gear third, and punch Eam. Not sure if it would do anything. Not sure if Eam would just, like, devour Luffy's fist. But it's possible that those things could happen. All right. So, moving on to the way that Eam speaks, and this was something that Artur went into more detail in his video, so I hope you've checked that out by now. But Artur mentioned that Eam speaks in a very casual tone at the beginning of the chapter, when Eam is just kind of there addressing Cobra and is like, I will now tell you two things, and you will tell me an answer, kind of sort of situation there. By the way, I was wondering if that might have some significance, where Eam doesn't really so much have a conversation with Cobra as just kind of tells Cobra things, but like the whole like, Mu will now tell you two things and you will give a response. I don't know. That might just be from like my Hunter loving heart, where the whole situation there with like Aluka and the questions and answers and everything like that, like 3 requests fulfilled and then you will have 1 wish granted to you. I don't know if it's something along those lines. I think it honestly, given what Artur says about Eam's character and the way that they speak, it probably doesn't have anything to do with any kind of magical ability, but just because Eam is so like well and beyond everything that we've ever really encountered in One Piece, it makes me wonder, like, Eam will tell you 2 things and you must give a response, as if like Cobra is compelled, he doesn't have a choice or something like that, which I guess in theory he didn't have a choice because the Gorosei all had guns and swords pointed at him. But if it's something beyond that, you know what I mean? It's just like, if I tell you 2 things, you must respond. You will do that. You will be compelled to do that. Probably not, but something I just thought of, okay? So, on top of speaking casually, he also has, or they also have, a very archaic way of saying things. Artur pointed out that there was a archaic pronoun called onushi, which essentially, it literally means master, but it's used in sort of a condescending sense. It basically is somebody from a higher status referring to someone else at a lower status, but the person at higher status is calling this person on the lower stratum a master or your lord, as kind of like kind of sarcastically, kind of. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's meant to be taken more sarcastically. So this is a very archaic pronoun, and so Eam uses that. That kind of carries over to the Viz translation, where Eam uses a lot of these and thous, like, thou shalt explain yourself, Cobra. It's like that sort of kind of verbiage is what we're using here with Eam, which we've already, I think, pretty much established. Eam is the same Eam that existed 800 years ago. Cobra even said as much. There's a little little bit of a discrepancy there, where in the original translation it was like Cobra outright confirms that, like, oh, yes, Eam was one of the 20 members of the families that formed the world government. In the Viz translation, and I believe Artur as well, said it's not confirmed 100%. I'm going along with that idea that Eam was just part of the original 20, because we really haven't filled out a lot of the other 20 families. Like, we know the Don Quixote family, and we know the Nefeltari family, we know Jay Garcia Saturn's family, obviously, and then the families of the 5 Gorosei, but there's so many more empty spots for the 20 families that, yeah, throw Eam in there, because, like, it fits. Okay, so I'm going with that right now, but it could be something different altogether. Eam might not have been one of the lords. Eam might have been, I don't know, like, the fact that Cobra knows the name kind of indicates that it's a significant name. You know, I was gonna maybe go along the lines of, like, what if Eam wasn't one of the kings or the monarchs? What if Eam was like a squire or something for one of the lords, and it's just this insignificant person, but then rose to prominence as the ruler of the entire world? Maybe something like that. Kind of like an Orochi situation back at Wano, where he started out as just a poor, you know, homeless kid, and then became the servant boy for Yasu, and then rose through the ranks, and, you know, was his deviousness. Like, I am Lord Orochi! I am back! You thought I was gone, but I am back! Eam takes off the cloak, and it's just, it was me, Lord Orochi, the whole time! I had one life left! And we just like, oh my god, no, that was the setup Oda was planning for years and years. That was the setup. But no, like, kind of like an Orochi story kind of situation. But that clearly wasn't the reality, because, you know, if Eam was just like a squire or like a servant of one of the original monarchs, why would Cobra remember their name? Not just remember their name, but, like, this happened 800 years ago, and Cobra, like, it clicked immediately. Even though Cobra is so overwhelmed right now, he's like in his 60s, he's in his wheelchair, he's coughing, he's hacking, and then all of a sudden a shadowy image appears and sits on the empty throne. Even with all that going on right now, Cobra is like, Eam, wait a second. I've heard that name before. That's a prominent name from the past, okay? And so Eam does not respond. He's like, I will not dignify that with a response, so don't even bother asking. You know, I'm not going to tell you who I am. But interesting fact there. So something else Artur brought up that I thought was interesting was, because Eam refers to themselves as Mu, which does, you know, the most common way of writing that is nothingness, void, you know, in Japanese, but also just the way that Eam, like, speaks at Cobra, Artur said it was kind of childish, if not kind of edgy, which I find really funny, that now I'm painting the image of, like, Eam as not like this all-powerful god, but like just like, I am Lord, I can't keep using the Orochi voice, like, I am Lord Eam-sama. You're gonna listen to me. Actually, my name is Mu. Call me nothingness and void, because I'm cool. You know, it might be something like that. Maybe not, but I just thought it was interesting, because, like, I'm going along with the idea right now currently that Eam is essentially the avatar of the ocean god, of Mother Earth, Mother Ocean, Mother Nature, okay, in physical form, in some form, maybe like possessing a human body for 800 years, could have been Lily's body, could have been something else, or just taking physical form, because, like I said, they interact with things around them, they can touch things, you know what I mean? So, you know, maybe something like that. Moving on, though, to emotions. So Eam does have emotions. Just the fact that Eam appeared in the throne room to directly talk to Cobra, because the Gorosei could have handled that. The Gorosei could have gotten all the information they needed out of Cobra, and then the Gorosei could have relayed that to Eam later. But Eam specifically appeared, even kind of startling the Gorosei, like, Lord Emu, Cobra is still present, and so Eam just thumps down on the empty throne. So I feel like right away that would lend to some curiosity. Eam is curious. Eam is interested in something that Cobra has knowledge of, like, for example, the letter that was passed down by Lily. And so Eam is like, no, I want to directly speak to Cobra. And so out of that curiosity. Now, in the chapter, Eam also expresses anger and rage. However, it is very important to note what triggers this. It's not even just anger, it's straight up rage. It's the thing that literally puts Eam over the edge and transforms and, you know, I will devour you all. You will never leave this throne room alive. Hey, come back. You know, okay. So, it's not so much anything Cobra says. Cobra goes on this whole thing. They're talking about Lily and everything like that. Eam brings up, oh yes, Nefeltari Lily, her blunder is what caused those vexing stones to exist in this world. Was it even a blunder, though? Was it perhaps a plan from days long past that has troubled me so much over these past 800 years? Not really troubled. I think Eam uses the word more of like annoyance. Like it's just a mild headache that these poneglyphs exist. You know what I mean? But it wasn't that made Eam enraged. It was the appearance of Sabo. But why would the appearance of Sabo cause Eam to go into rage mode? Well, I don't think it was the appearance of Sabo by himself, because I really don't think Eam gives a shit about, like, the modern Revolutionary Army, at least at large. Like, I was like, oh no, Sabo, the chief of staff of the revolution, is here. We must destroy him. I don't think it's anything like that. No. If you go back and read the chapter, and I'll pull this up just to make double sure here. I have it pulled up right here. But when Eam is attacked by Sabo, specifically when Eam... when Sabo does Fire Fist on the Gorosei and then Smothered Mate firing up the empty throne, at that moment, that is the moment that Eam's eyes finally shift, where they were like in the same state, very calm. They narrowed a little bit when Cobra brought up, you know, oh, her name was Nefeltari D. Lily. And then Eam is kind of like, But it wasn't until Sabo attacked Eam directly that there were more rings added to Eam's eyes, and they narrowed, and they really expressed that unabashed rage. Like, where did this one come from? Now, to be fair, if someone shows up in your throne room and fires a fire jet at you, I feel like the appropriate response to that is, like, who is this? You know, like, it's like, why are you firing? Why are you using a flamethrower at me? I feel like rage or fear would be a pretty appropriate response to someone showing up out of nowhere and shooting fire at you, right? But here's another idea. What if the reason why Eam got so enraged at that point was not because of Sabo being there, but because Sabo is a devil fruit user, and Sabo is using a devil fruit attack? That's not normal fire, that's the Mera Nomi's fire. Using fire, specifically devil fruit empowered fire, at Eam, that was the thing that enraged them. Because going back to what Vega about desire creating devil fruits, whether he meant that literally as in, like, you know, I wish to be a jacket, and then poof, somewhere in the world a devil fruit is born where you could become a jacket, or it's meant more in like a figurative sense, you know, like the desires of human beings create devil fruits, but not like directly, something like that, right? Either or, Vegapunk also goes on to say that the opposite of this desire, or those that oppose that desire, is Mother Nature, Mother Earth, Mother Ocean, which is why devil fruit users sink in the water. So I don't think Eam really cared. In fact, Eam's face is pretty still stoic when Sabo comes in, and it isn't until he starts launching the fire attacks is when Eam is like, what? How dare he? You know? So I think that was the thing that did it. Honestly, I don't think it was anything Cobra said. I don't think it was just the appearance of Sabo. I think it was the fact that Sabo was a devil fruit user and used an attack directly at Eam and the Gorosei. That's what enraged Eam, because Eam is truly like hates any kind of devil fruit. Like, it's against their very nature. It's against the nature of the world. If Eam truly is some kind of god being that like created everything or crafted the world in a specific way and is now enraged that humans have like corrupted their world and created these things called devil fruits, right? So Eam then becomes enraged and then chomps down on the fire and then extinguishes it and then transforms into this huge monstrosity that begins to, you know, stomp down the throne or like crawl down the throne. You know, oh, by the way, that's another thing too. It might just be the limitation of the room itself, but the room is pretty big. Eam is crawling down the throne. You know what I mean? Like a child. Wonder if that's indicative of anything. I'm not sure. But it could just be like the ceiling is too low and it's like he can't stand up, so he's got to like crawl down. And it looks very creepy. It looks very like, you know, it's like Eldritch. I've used that comparison a lot, like Cthulhu or something. But it kind of, you know, harkens back to that a little bit with all the silhouettes and all the weird mouths and everything with the Gorosei and all that stuff. So yeah, and I think it would actually be really rather interesting. Moving on to this is the tail attack that Eam uses against Cobra. So this tail, actually, it's weird because the tail attack appears to the left of Cobra. So Cobra's like on the ground, like way down below the empty throne, and then this tail appears to the left of him and stabs him. So I'm thinking like, oh, well, what if it was St. J. Garcia Saturn who was standing to his immediate left that caused the arrow? But no, it seemed very clear that the arrow, the tail appendage, came from Eam, all right? Came from Eam himself, themselves. So, and Artor went on to this, was like, oh, what if it's like, okay, like a cartoonish devil, like the devil from like an old cartoon or something. It's like, I'm the devil, ooh, I have 2 horns and a thorny spiky tail, and I'm red, I wear red pajamas, ooh, you know, like, I'm the devil, I have a pitchfork, could be something like that, but I actually really like the idea, and this would be really clever if Oda did this. So, you know, you have these 2 dichotomies, basically. You have God and you have the devil, you know, or Satan or whatever, okay? Wouldn't it be interesting if it's kind of flipped in One Piece, where God is not the all-powerful source of good and the devil is like the source of like jealousy or evil or something like that? No, what if it's flipped, where you have those that wield devil fruits are the ones that are fighting for the utmost freedom in the world, like Luffy, like all the members of the Will of D, like even Blackbeard is fighting for a form of freedom. It's a lot more of a chaotic, evil type of freedom, but it is a type of freedom. And so those are the devil fruit users that are vying for that freedom in the world, and then it's the god being who is Eam, or Mother Ocean, that is the one that's suppressing everything or trying to keep everything static and the same, and the devil fruit users are trying to change things up. It's almost as if, like, let's go along with that idea really quick. Like, let's say Eam is Mother Ocean, or like some physical form avatar of Mother Ocean, and it's like, I created the world to exist in a very specific way, and it will stay that way, for that is the perfect world I have created. But then the humans start creating devil fruits out of their own desire, and that wasn't part of the plan. And Eam gets infuriated over that, of just like, this world was perfect. Why are you introducing these fruits, these devil fruits into my world? This is not perfect. You know what I mean? You know, being able to transform into a jacket is against the order of the world. You know, like something like that, you know? You have upset the natural order. You know? So, what if it is something like that? What if that is kind of the game that Eam's playing here, okay? And so that's kind of the flip of the script, where Eam is a godly being, but it's actually, you know, they're the ones that's actually trying to ruin the world or keep it the same or suppress the freedom, and the devil users are the ones that are fighting back. Kind of getting, have you ever read Paradise Lost? Yeah, okay. So, I wanted to bring that up there. All right, going into abilities really quick here. Going into that specific attack, because there's something I want to bring up there. Okay, so the scene where Eam uses that tail appendage to slash at Cobra and Sabo. Go read that scene, okay, again, really quick, all right? So, Cobra gets stabbed by it once. Sabo picks him up, tries to carry him out of the throne room. The tail swings in again, and the way that I'm looking at this scene, trying to figure out how this works. It definitely injures Sabo because, you know, even though he's a Logia, so you could just say armament hockey. But I really feel like Eam and the Gorosei are beyond devil fruits and maybe even separate from hockey at this point. The tail comes in. It impales Cobra again, like, really bad. Like the first time it just kind of runs Cobra through, like, from this side to this side, which is bad enough. You've basically punctured both of his kidneys and his stomach. But the second time it comes in, it goes in, like, from his back, and it goes out through here. So he's really getting run through by this thing. So while it's swiping Cobra like that, Sabo, I assume, gets slashed in the back by this thing. Like, just, like, on the back. Now, Sabo's reaction to that attack looks absolutely agonizing. It looks like Sabo is in, like, the worst pain of his life. His pupils, it's like when, you know, it's like when Luffy lost Ace and Luffy's pupils went completely, like, whited out, and it was like, you know, it's kind of like that, where Sabo's pupils go away, he coughs up a lot of blood, and he hits the ground. It looks like that was the most painful thing he's endured in a while. Now, you could just say because Sabo became a Logia at Dressrosa, maybe Sabo got a little used to being in his Logia form, kind of like Ace with Blackbeard, where Blackbeard even mentioned with Ace, like, hey, Ace, you know, you've been a Logia for so long, it's probably been a long while since you've been physically hit. Hurts, don't it? You know, hurts, don't it? You know, so could be just that. It could just be Sabo was not expecting to be slashed by this thing. But another way of looking at it, what if it's like, because Eam is the exact opposite of a Devil Fruit user, if you get sliced or attacked or chomped down or anything, like physically touched by Eam, and you're a Devil Fruit user, it might cause you immense pain and agony. Cobra was not a Devil Fruit user, so it makes sense why he was definitely impaled, but it makes sense why he wasn't in a sense of insane agony. He wasn't a Devil Fruit user. Sabo was. And it's like, I'm looking at this scene, I really am, and it's like, Sabo does get cut pretty bad. I think he gets slashed in the back pretty bad. I think he also gets, like, cut, like, punctured, like, right here where his kidney is, like, the side of him. So he definitely got hurt. I'm not saying it doesn't look like, oh, it was just a paper cut. But I don't know, man. Sabo's been a warrior of the Revolutionary Army for his entire life, pretty much, like the last 10+ years. He's fought a lot of battles. I'm sure he's taken a lot of damage before, okay? This image right here, and the fact that Oda puts it so obvious of, like, Sabo, like, the whited out pupils, his hat falls off. He's like, ah, God, that hurt, you know? He hits the ground, and he's on the ground for a while bleeding out. He's bleeding a lot. So it's like, it's just one attack that's like just kind of like was the you know, Cobra was the main target of that attack. Sabo kind of just gets hit off to the side. But like, it just seemed like it dealt a lot of damage. So wouldn't that be interesting if like Eam just placing a hand on a Devil Fruit user is enough for them to like, you know, like cause them like intense pain, like a searing hot iron was just placed on them. I like that as an idea. So I'm just going to go ahead with that right now. Cause it just looked like, Oda really wanted to showcase how much pain that one attack did to Sabo. And it could just be because, like, oh, he's not used to getting hit because he's a Logia. But Sabo knows about hockey. He should know that, like, just being a Logia is not going to make him immune from all forms of physical damage. He knows hockey exists. So, I don't know about this. And I'm sure, by the way, also, here's another thing, too. If you just want to go straight up hockey with it, don't you think Sabo was using armament? Don't you think Sabo, when he was running away and he knows that there's 6 of these demons coming after him, chasing after him, don't you think Sabo would be like, oh, they're going to attack me. I'm going to use armament. What if Eam just nullifies the armament, nullifies the Logia, and just slashes Sabo, and it feels like the worst damn pain he's ever felt in his entire life? And he gets knocked down, and he was down for a while. It was just because of Cobra standing up and blocking the attack that Sabo was able to get away, which I'm still a little curious on how the hell Sabo managed to get away from that throne room. You know what I mean? Because he was lying on the ground, and some sickly old man is like, you must escape! And then, yeah, unless Eam was really just like really enjoying themselves when they were chomping down on Cobra, maybe. Okay, but I just want to bring that up there. So yeah, the arrow, indicative of the devil, as Artur said, but might have some ability to specifically damage Devil Fruit users. Think Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi, but on the next level. Like, when Blackbeard touches someone with his power, it nullifies their fruit, but it doesn't cause them any effect beyond that. Imagine Eam is beyond even that, where it takes away your power, but it also, like, you know, it hurts, you know, because it's like, you know, you are the opposite opposing the god. Yeah, they have the ability to transform their form. I don't think it's that body, like the giant form and the shark teeth. I don't think that's the only form Eam can take. I feel like they're a shapeshifter. They can kind of take a form of whatever they want, which could also lend to the Gorosei being fragments. I don't think it's a Devil Fruit ability. I think it's just something else. And so the only other things to bring up here were really the connections between Lily, Vivi, Shirahoshi, and the Will of D. So with Lily, Lily was one of the monarchs of the 20 families. I did a whole video about her from what we know so far, and Eam brings up it was some kind of blunder that she made, though Eam now suspects it was more of a plan to scatter the poneglyphs. Part of the message that Lily left in the letter was protect the poneglyph at all costs. There was part of that letter, there was about a sentence that was missing that Eam growls over, so we don't actually hear it. I'm not sure if we didn't hear it or Sabo didn't hear it. It might be because, remember, Sabo is retelling this whole story to Dragon and Ivankov right now. So when we cut back to them, Dragon and Ivankov might have their own take on what's going on here, and they might be like, Was that the whole message that Cobra wanted to say? And Sabo was like, I don't know, man. I got slashed. I couldn't make out all of it, but that's the part I heard. You know what I mean? And so so Dragon is like, oh, okay, so that's what Cobra meant. All right, maybe he meant the poneglyph at Alabasta, the one that points to Wano, and maybe, I don't know. So there's that. We know that the Kozuki clans were the ones that actually made carved the poneglyphs themselves. So maybe it was Lily that was responsible for scattering them to the world, right? So there's that. Go check out that video on Lily for more information there. We know with Shirahoshi, one of the ancient weapons, Eam stabbed that picture with a knife. So probably Eam opposing the ancient weapons. That also makes sense. If the ancient weapons were something that the ancient kingdom had that opposed the world government 800 years ago, it would make sense why they were against that. Oh, by the way, something else Artur brought up that I completely forgot. Back during Ohara, Clover had a hypothesis that the reason the poneglyphs existed was because, like, the actual process of events was the ancient kingdom knew they were going to lose the war. Like, they were getting close to the end of the battle. The war was still raging, but they knew that they were probably going to lose. And so as a contingency, they made the poneglyphs. Like, that's the specific reason why at least Clover hypothesized why they exist. So maybe Lily was the one that ordered their construction. Like, Lily was like, I don't think we're going to... Well, no, Lily was fighting for the world government. See, that's the thing. Lily was fighting on the other side. Maybe Lily was a double agent. Maybe Lily changed sides and went over to Joy Boy's side and became friends with Joy Boy. And then something with that. And so maybe Joy Boy and the Kozuki clan and everybody had the idea to make the poneglyphs, and maybe Lily was like, I will, if you guys all die, I will make sure that these poneglyphs stay safe. Maybe it's something like that. Like, she was a friend from the other side of the battle. And then there's the D, of course. Eam brings up the D and how they are our enemies in the distant past. This was already confirmed, through Corazon and Law. They're enemies of gods and all that stuff. But specifically, Eam says that there are those that have the will of D in the current era. There's actually more of them popping up than usual. But they are echoes, they are vestiges. They don't actually know what the word means or what the name indicates, right? But then we get the flashback with Ace, Sabo, and Luffy, where it's like names don't really matter. It's just about what the meaning is behind that word, their actions, okay? So what if Eam, once again, what if Eam is this god that's like a very, very tunnel vision, static view on existence? Like, yes, the D. People still exist with the name, but they don't know what it means, so it's of no concern. But, like, Eam just cannot see beyond the literal meaning of a name. Like, Eam thinks the important thing is the name. Like, as long as the members of the Will of D don't know what the D stands for, then Eam is fine. There's no concern. But Eam does not understand the broader picture of, like, it goes beyond just a word. It goes beyond just a name. It goes beyond just literally having an initial. It goes to your actions, your personality, your ambitions toward freedom that Luffy represents, that Ace represented. That's the thing that actually matters. But Eam just is so laser focused on one thing, they can't see beyond that, okay? So it could be something like that, or maybe doesn't even have the capacity to think of it in that way, just because of their nature as a deity, okay? So there you go. That's everything I wanted to go over with Eam right now. Still a lot to go over and address. I don't know. I feel like we're going to cut back to... we're going to cut back to the end of the flashback to Sabo talking to Dragon Ivankov next chapter. And then maybe at the end of the next chapter, we might cut back to Egghead. Because, like, this was, like, the big, big moment, and maybe now it's time to rejoin the Straw Hats and see what they're up to, right? A lot of banger chapters, one after another. I mean, every chapter, like the last 7-8 chapters without the Straw Hats have been just absolutely balls to the wall. You know what I mean? Well, anyway, yeah, that's the video. Now we can move on to some Vulture Facts. Let's go. Ah! Vulture Facts, Vulture Facts. Everybody loves those Vulture Facts. Vulture Facts, Vulture Facts. Eating that carrion, it's Vulture Facts. Thanks to Torrey once again for the Vulture Fact intro. That's a fun one. I've had this cowlick on my head the entire time. I don't know if you guys noticed. All right, couple of interesting things about vultures, okay? So, once again, lending to, like, their ugliness in most of culture. It's just like, oh, vultures, they're ugly, don't go near them or whatever, okay? So, first of all, to add to that, a lot of birds have a vocal organ that allows them to, like, tweet and, like, caw and stuff like that, and it's called the syrinx, okay? And that's, like, the vocal organ that birds have. Okay, vultures do not have that organ, so they are only able to hiss, growl, and snarl. They can only make these very guttural kind of like you know, like these kind of noises because they just do not have the same vocal organ as other birds do. So they can't caw and do stuff like that, which might lend to their, like, you get close to one of these things and it's just hissing at you. It's like, ugh. So the way that they work with the carrion, like they eat, you know, the dead bodies of animals and stuff, they do actually, you know, hunt like live animals sometimes. They don't just hunt like dead animals and carrion. However, the animals they do prey upon are already sick and dying. So there it is. It's just like, oh, well, okay, that mouse is not dead yet, but it looks pretty sluggish. All right, and then they'll just kill it. They'll just cut out the middleman. They're not going to wait for the animal to die. If the animal is kind of slow moving and looks sickly, the vulture will just eat it. Okay, so there it is. Also, they're not going to eat just any random roadkill on the side of the road. They have standards, okay? If a particular piece of meat has been laying out for several days and it becomes rotted and putrid, they will not eat it, okay? Because they know that that vastly increases the chances of even vultures getting sick, okay? They have bald heads for two reasons. Number one, for thermal regulation, but also because, you know, if they're digging around in the corpses of dead animals and getting blood and viscera and everything all over their faces, if that gets matted in their feathers, that could lead to infections. So the way that evolution got around that is they just do not have any feathers on their heads. They're bald. That's the reason. And the most fascinating thing out of all of this, that it's actually more fascinating for humans than it is vultures. So the reason why vultures do not get sick, one of the reasons why they don't get sick, there's a couple. The main reason, though, is when they're eating dead animals and dead flesh that's obviously brimming with, like, you know, bacteria and stuff like that, the pH level of the stomach acid in a vulture's stomach is insanely low. The pH is almost essentially 0, which is like almost as acidic as you can get. So it's like a very, very, very powerful stomach acid that's inside of vultures' stomachs, right? And I'm like, wow, okay, that's fascinating. But that got me thinking, I'm like, okay, if the pH of a vulture is like 0, I'm going to compare that to a human's pH, which I did not know. So I looked it up. The pH level of a human is only like 1.5 to 2. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that doesn't seem that different from a vulture's. And I did more research, and yeah, when it comes to animals, human beings have some of the most acidic stomach acid. Like, we're like, literally, it's like humans and vultures that are like, vultures are even more acidic than us. Like, vultures have like the lowest pH level, but like humans are like right up there with vultures. Like, our stomach acid essentially has the the pH level of like hydrochloric acid, essentially. Like, inside of our stomachs right now is essentially hydrochloric acid. Compare that to some other animals. Cow's stomach acid is 6.0 to 6.4, and dogs are around 7.0. And then humans are like 1.5. So it's extraordinary. Like, so I don't know, that might actually have come about from our ancestors, like before we invented fire. You know, like our ancestors, like cavemen and stuff, eating raw meat. Like, that might be a leftover from that. But yeah, I guess human stomachs are really, really good at breaking down bacteria for that reason. So, I mean, you could still get sick and things. Don't go out there just eating raw meat all the time. But, like, I guess the human stomach is really good at like digesting that shit. So there you go. There's a vulture fact and a human fact for you. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Teching signing out. Make sure to check out links below to Techo to get your badge, and then also check out Artor's channel and check out Mugiwara no Goofy's channel. Really funny shit over there. Thanks for watching. Later, everyone. No face. Get it? Because he kind of looks like Eam.